I have always been a fan of those who are willing to speak their mind, regardless of the consequences or the people who will give them any kind of backlash. That being said, last night after All Out, the AEW had like a little media scrum, and CM Punk decided to shoot on the EVPs, Colt Cabana, and a couple other things. And I listened to the whole thing a couple minutes ago, and he's not exactly wrong about the EVPs, and he also went on about Hangman Adam Page, and he's not wrong because these insufferable douchebags seem to think that they're just huge stars when they're not. They can't draw, they couldn't draw in Japan, so they decided to start their own company and then basically bury the talent just to put themselves over. And they cannot take criticism of any kind. And every time they do, like get some, they just completely attack anyone who doesn't agree with them. And I've looked at their Twitter pages, and their Twitter is insufferable. I can't even go on Twitter and go to their page because they just don't know how to shut their fucking mouths. That being said, like, Punk is absolutely right about everything. And I think it's fantastic that CM Punk has called everybody out on this stuff. Like, he said something about how he's tired of working with kids who think they know everything. And he's absolutely right. AEW is filled with people who just won't listen. Like, they just think they know everything. Like, Kenny Omega even said that he didn't go to wrestling school and is basically making fun of anybody who did, and it shows that he didn't. I mean, I think Jim Cornette even mentioned a couple times that he tried out for Ring of Honor, and Jim said he was terrible. And so he was scheduled to be on one of their tryouts, and then he called and said, "Oh, I'm not feeling good," and he shows us this foot or whatever, and then he goes and wrestles in Japan. And every time I try to criticize any of these people, they're just like, "Oh, we watched their Japan matches." Like, no, I don't want to watch their Japan matches. Like, they weren't that popular in Japan either. Like, I've actually asked a couple people who were like Japanese wrestling fans, and I'm friends with a couple Japanese people, and I told them, I said, were these guys actually over? Like, because these guys went to a couple NJPW shows, and I'm like, were these guys actually over? And he's like, no. The people who were over were people like Tanahashi, Okada, Ishii, people like that, like the actual Japanese guys, not these guys who come over from America like Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, or Twinkle Toes and the Hardy Boys, as Jim Cornette likes to say. But yeah, I think it's great that CM Punk has actually called him out on this. I keep seeing everybody saying, like, "Oh, Punk is being unprofessional and everything." And I'm like, I think he's right. It's about time someone goes out there and speaks the truth about these insufferable twats. Because they for some reason think that they're stars, and they think that they're such great wrestlers. And again, that's why they started this thing, just so they can get themselves over. Kind of like with what Jeff Jarrett did with TNA, even though I like Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was actually great. These guys are not. But yeah, CM Punk also was talking about Colt Cabana, and basically said, like, we haven't talked in years. And that's another thing he was saying was, back to what I was saying about him saying that he's tired of the kids, is, yeah, these people need to listen. Like, they think they know everything. That's the problem. They don't know how to get over, so they just do the gymnastics and the tumbling routines, and they do all this crash test dummy bullshit just to, pop dipshits like Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. And I'm sorry, but that stuff doesn't make stars. It really doesn't. But And I personally think that these guys are just jealous of CM Punk because CM Punk, like, I realize that he's not like a massive draw, but he's drawing a lot more than they are. In fact, I think last year when he first debuted, Mark Henry was like, he went on record saying that CM Punk sold so many T-shirts that they pretty much crashed the AEW store. And I'm like, if that's right there is something. If CM Punk is not a draw, then he's clearly moving merchandise. He crashed the store. Does anybody else crash the store with their merchandise? No. So clearly CM Punk is obviously moving the needle at some point. So yeah, I mean, I know I probably might get some hate for this, but I don't care. You can sit there in the comment section with your flaming keyboard fingers of fire. I don't care. You need to hear this, and that's one of the things we do here at the OTTR show. Like, I'm here to tell you something you might not want to hear, but you need to hear. So yeah, that's just my opinion on this whole situation with CM Punk. And this is just my opinion. I could be wrong to some of you, but I personally think that I'm not. My buddy Kevin will probably be posting a different video from looking from the other side of things. He's going to be providing a more neutral ground because he's a little bit more of an expert in wrestling than I am. I'm just following the current stuff. Like, I'm reporting on the current stuff. I might do a couple retro reviews later, but I digress. But I guess in these upcoming weeks, we'll just see what happens, because I heard last night after the press conference that CM Punk and the Elite almost got into a fist fight, and they threatened to leave the company or walk out, and I'm just like, bye! Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I think this company would be a lot better without you. And because I also saw somebody in the comments a while ago, they were like, oh, if those three leave, AEW is done. I'm like, no, they wouldn't be done. Okay, Cody Rhodes left, and I mean, he was the only EVP who was actually like level-headed. Sure, they booked him like shit, and I love him a lot more in WWE, but still, this right here is why you should not have active wrestlers on your roster be in a position of management in a company, because they will use that power to only get themselves over. I mean, look what happened with Hulk Hogan and the NWO in WCW, and they did part of that shit in TNA too. And they wouldn't put anybody over because the Hulk Hogan's like, oh, that doesn't work for me, brother. So, and that's pretty much what they're doing now. So I think Jim Cornette said many times that they need a booker. They need someone with a wrestling mind. They need to stop letting wrestlers be in charge. Tony Khan needs to lay down the law. Like he needs to be a commanding presence, like Vince McMahon was. Like, I mean, surely you can say a lot of things about Vince McMahon, but you can't argue the fact that he was like, okay, this is how it's going to be. If you don't like it, I don't care. We need someone with a commanding presence, and Tony needs to lay down the law. Be like, this is my company. We're going to play by my rules, not yours, Kenny and the Hardley boys. And like I said, CM Punk did a fantastic job. I don't care. Hashtag Team Punk. I'm on CM Punk's team all the way. But I can tell last night when I was watching that interview, Tony Khan looked pretty scared. Like, his facial expressions when CM Punk was shooting during the interview when they were asking him questions, I'm just like, Tony looks pretty terrified. But then again, he's not exactly a great person in front of the camera. So yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping they get all this straightened out. I look forward to hearing what Jim Cornette has to say, because I'm sure he'll be pretty entertaining about that. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. And I'll see you in the next one.